2 decades ago, I had this fancy title called Internet Evangelist or E-Strategist. And my job was to predict where the internet would go from here. Remember, this was the era of 2.4 kbps modem, 9.6 kbps modems, dial-up connections, and so on. These are some of the predictions which I made, some of which have come relatively true, some of which have come not so much true, and some of them have not appeared true as much. So I thought this would be an interesting walk down history lane to find out where we are in terms of what we thought we would be. Number one, web marketing. So actually, I actually had to predict or convince people that they need to bring their businesses onto the web, and that was something which was still needed a bit of convincing to tell people that the web is the future and things would be online in the future. Not so much convincing needed right now. Number two, how to get $1 billion valuation. Interesting that was talked about at that time, because considering the whole concept of unicorns and all hadn't quite started. This was an era a long time ago, but if you see this article of mine, it does talk about how to become a $1 billion company, and my analysis was that when you re-engineer the process and reduce the cost, whatever cost you are saving, that actually contributes to your valuation. So an interesting take on the matter. Probably things may seem a bit new right now or differently, but an interesting perspective, I think. Number three, we came up with a new theory called transfer cost theory. A very interesting theory for that era, which talked about how internet meant that you actually transfer the cost from the producer to the consumer. So in earlier times, if you were you had to spread your information out, and you were a producer of information, it was you who had to incur the cost of printing, the cost of the information, even seeking the information, and all the other facets. So what transfer cost theory theorized is that we actually transfer the cost from the producer to the consumer, and now the consumer has to bear the cost of electricity, the cost of the device, the cost of printing, the cost of all the aspects of getting the information is actually being transferred from the producer to the consumer. So that we called it a transfer cost theory, and it was quite revolutionary 20 years ago, because this was something which no one had ever heard of or thought about. Number four, segmenting your customers. So this is again something which was slightly unusual, and remember, this is 99, 2000. Even Facebook has not started as yet. None of the internet, it wasn't so, internet services are not so prevalent. So here we were telling the people about that the future will be in which you will be able to segment your customers and slice and dice your customers very, very appropriately and very, very in a very fine manner. That has come true in today's date, in which the internet has become really all about data, and you can really fine tune your target audience, right down to likes, dislikes, whether they like a certain drink, or they live in a certain place, the exact locality, and you can target them so precisely. So that is something which a prediction which probably did come quite true. How to create ROI. That was another interesting aspect, because at that time no one knew that this is again 22 years or so behind or earlier, and no one really knew how they will make money out of the internet. And what we had predicted, or what I had predicted, was that the more number of processes that you cut down, again kind of a re-engineering, which we spoke about earlier, the more number of re-engineered processes that you do, the more is the return on investment. So like if you are, the example that I had given in some of my write-ups to help explain it to the people is that if you, instead of mailing envelopes, if you are replacing it by a blog or an email, then it's actually a return on investment, because you are saving that much of expenditure. And so people also didn't know that how much should they be spending in terms of the internet. So we said that, I said that as the amount that you save, the amount that you can re-engineer your process, that is the amount that you can actually invest in your tech initiative, and that give you some kind of a very clear budget of how much you should invest. Personalization, another interesting aspect which kind of goes back to segmentation, but personalization was also something relatively new at that time, and we predicted that there will be a lot of personalization involved in the internet. People will be able to get the kind of data that means something to them, that is important to them, and this has come quite very, very true in the current scenario. So that was a prediction done quite right. Number 7, the future of telemedicine. This was probably, we had really predicted, or I had really predicted, that doctors will almost be, physical doctors may be completely eliminated, and there may not be need for physical doctors at all, and x-rays and data will be flowing back and forth. It has come somewhat true. There is a bit of telemedicine is an evolving field. It is growing rapidly. There are exams which are done from the Western world into India. People are looking at x-rays over here and they are examining them, but not probably to that extent. So that is a little bit of a walk down history lane into an era when the evangelists, when we really were called evangelists and e-strategists, and we were really predicting the future. We are still predicting the future over here, but it's interesting to see where an era of 2.4 kbps, 9.6 kbps modems have evolved from, and what they have evolved into, and that's some of the knowledge or the wisdom we bring when we do our whether we do our communication or our PR, and I hope you enjoyed that.